I've made over $700,000 trading, and for the first 3 years of that, I was doing it completely blind. Not because I didn't know how to read the charts, but because I was only reading half of the information. Every trader learns the same thing when they start. You open up a chart, you see the candles, you learn the patterns and the setups. The confluences, you know it. ICT, SMC, order blocks, fair value gaps. But what took me years to understand and what made me the most amount of money is the candle doesn't show you what's happening in the market. It shows you what already happened. It's a summary after the fact, compressed into a single bar. And while you're staring at that bar, trying to figure out what comes next, there's something happening in real time behind every single one of them. Most traders never see this because nobody ever showed them it was there. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what candles are hiding, why it's costing you every single trade, and how reading this layer changes everything about your execution. Let's get into it. All right, so you might be familiar with the chart on the left, which is a basic trading view chart, right? And in this trading view chart, you see candlesticks going up and down, obviously, right? And that's probably what you are used to. Now, if you add a layer like Bookmap, in this case, it will show you a deeper understanding. What do we see on Bookmap right here? Their slogan is "See the unseen." So, I mean, of course, they gotta put a little drama to it, but it is definitely something that is highly used by people who are actually profitable, simply because it gives you way more data. A lot of people, you know, when they see a chart like this, I've seen it on social media, I've seen people complain, I've seen people react to seeing Bookmap for the first time, and that might be you in this case. It definitely looks a little bit intimidating, but it's not, right? It's not. And let's think logically about trading in general, okay? If you want to achieve ultimate profitability and actually become a professional in this and build a career off of it and actually do this for the long run, you need more data. You need to study. You need to understand things that go a layer deep, all right? A lot of people say if your trading is complicated, or if you make it unnecessarily complicated, or whatever it is that they say nowadays, where they really advocate for having a simple strategy. And they usually refer to a simple strategy as a mechanical entry model on a candlestick chart. You know, drawing highs and lows, drawing highs and lows, lower highs. My bad, this is supposed to be a lower low. I mean, people call this, you know, especially people who trade ICT, SMC and all that, they call that liquidity points, right? Behind every swing high and swing low is liquidity points. Realistically, how do you know that? Just by looking at that candlestick chart? We don't know that. And realistically, you can't call these places liquidity, or if price approaches that level or breaks through it, that you call it the market has taken liquidity now, or we swept that high and now we're going to reverse. You do not know that all the time. You actually, if you live with that mentality, I'm pretty sure you're unprofitable, right? Unless you're actually trading with a layer deeper. Now on this specific screenshot, we see this blue line, right? And this blue line represents yesterday's high or low. It was, I believe it was yesterday's high. And it doesn't matter because session highs and session lows, daily highs, daily lows are often seen as pretty strong areas of resistance or support. That's true. And even with that simple framework, if you could even build a simple strategy off of highs and lows, session highs and lows, or daily highs and daily lows with Bookmap. Why? Because it shows you certain data, certain activity that otherwise you would not be able to see on a candlestick chart, other than just maybe some bars that are ranging in that specific area, but you do not know what is really going on. And in this specific case, we see on the left side, we have a stop volume profile, meaning this shows literal stop orders in the market that get stopped out. And we see buyers and sellers fighting at this level. We see rejection. We see a little liquidity point here. We see intent. We see orders. We see big orders coming in. We see intent. And we can make a calculated decision based off of that. That's ultimately what you want. You want to have as much information as possible, real information, not just speculation, because price reaching yesterday's highs or low, or it doesn't matter what point, it could be anything from your setup, whether it be in a fair value gap or whether it be whatever, you want to actually have data to confirm that speculation that you made, right? Because it's speculating at the end of the day. Bookmap, it adds a layer of confirmation, not just by guessing, but with actual data that you can see in front of you happening in real time from market participants, big market participants. That's essentially what you want in trading. So you might see this chart and be like, that looks very intimidating. Actually, it's just a visual representation of a price ladder, or a DOM, the depth of market. And what is it? It's basically aggressive orders coming in and passive orders sitting on the book, and price just transacting as it's normally doing, right? And how are you not using this information for your trading? Why would you not be using this information for your trading? What, because you want your strategy to be simple? That doesn't make any sense, does it? On one end, you're like, yeah, I want to make a lot of money with trading. And on the other end, you're like, oh no, but my strategy has to be simple though. I will only do it if my strategy is simple and it's a clean chart with some lines on it. I mean, that sounds a bit, you know what I'm saying? I prefer if you would say, look, I'm willing to do every single thing there is, which is getting a lot more data, adding to your arsenal to actually make a calculated solid trade with real data, not just a speculation of a yesterday's high or a yesterday's low, or we're reaching this level now, or how do you know? How do you know if there's actually interest in that level, right? Just because it reacted off of it in the past, you can't do that. Why would you do that? You would be guessing at that point, while you could be confirming with order flow, which is basically real data coming into the market in front of your face, right? So on the left side, we see, like I said, a depth of market, a price ladder, orders coming in and out. And Bookmap is simply a visual representation of this on the left. It's quite simple. It's a visual representation of what you see right here. And you know, I have some special tools added to it, which is the iceberg VP, which is hidden orders in the market. And we have a stop VP, which is a stop order volume profile, shows people getting stopped out. Quite simple, right? Other than that, we see I have a tool where it shows me the market volatility and the average liquidity going on right now, just to gauge whether it is a very high liquidity session in that specific day. Sometimes this number spikes up a lot, that you know there's something going on, that you know you should be taking it easy. But yeah, that's basically some things that really you should be having added to your arsenal if you want to become a real professional trader, I assume, for the long run, not for the short term, right? I assume that you're spending hours and hours right now hoping that you will get something out of it for the long run. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years maybe, 50 years. This is the only way to do it. So what really matters, once again, it's simply showing a layer deeper than what you normally see on TradingView. TradingView is not an order flow platform. If you're looking to get into order flow, switch over to a platform like Sierra Chart, Motive Wave, Atas. We got some other platforms out there as well. I personally use Sierra Chart. I briefly talked about hidden orders, and this is exactly why I use Bookmap, right? there's a couple things that really matter in the market. So you might be thinking, a natural question might be, because that was what I was asking before I ever downloaded Bookmap and started looking into liquidity. It was, okay, but if I know every single order, if I know every single market participant, if I know there's orders sitting at this level waiting to get filled, then it's probably easily a cheat code. Well, no, there's still a big art and still a skill that you need to master. It's way easier to master actually than any trading chart pattern, simply because of clarity. It shows you real data that you could judge, that is in front of your face, happening in real time, instead of going to learning whatever mechanical model based on candlesticks on TradingView, because there you're operating in the dark all the time, right? All the time. Okay, sure, you got your setup, you got your top-down analysis, you got your whatever, but you do not know if that's actually going to work out. You will still be entering with a scared mindset. You will still be entering with an element of not knowing if price is actually going there, or you could not even spot if price is invalidating that, which is exactly what Bookmap is good for. It's not only for taking profits, knowing where a high resistance zone is so you can take your profits there. It's good for actually confirming your trade idea, and it's also good for invalidating your trade idea. Sometimes you do enter long, and then Bookmap shows every single sign that price is not interested to go higher. So what you do, instead of hitting your full stop loss, you could simply exit much earlier, right? And these things are very important. Now you might be thinking, going back to the original question, okay, but if I download Bookmap, then automatically I will know every single thing that's happening in the market. Well, no. Funny thing is, there's a lot of weird things going, because market makers do know that if everything was so clear, that everyone would make money, right? And that's not what they want, probably. As we can see right here, we have a spoof example. We call this spoof, right? Spoof orders. We have, every single time you open up Bookmap, you will see random zones where there's a lot of liquidity sitting, right? And you might think, okay, we're going to go to that level because the market moves on liquidity. True, the market does move on liquidity, and the market is definitely a magnet to levels where there's large orders sitting, or it can act even as a wall where large orders are sitting. But the funny thing is, there's a lot of spoof orders going on, basically fake orders being put in the market to confuse who? To confuse you and me. We're in the same boat here. I'm not an institutional trader, but yeah, as we can see right here, we have a plus 1,000 contract orders added, and then and then price started gravitating towards it, as you can see, and then it got pulled and it immediately reversed. Funny enough, right? Which is also a good sign to read, which is also a good thing to see, right? Once again, I want to put this into contrast. Normally, you're on a candlestick chart, right? You see price going up, and then it randomly goes down. I can make sense of it. I can say, oh yeah, boom, the orders got pulled, and immediately price decided to just go back. And then what happened? So some institutions started adding 500 contracts on top, then started shortly removing it. Price gravitated slowly again towards it, got pulled, and then the orders got pulled, and then price just went down. Funny, isn't it? And that is spoof orders, fake orders, orders meant to really trap people. And if you're not aware of this in real time, because you got to understand this might be a span of, I don't know, 6 minutes, 5 minutes maybe, you wouldn't know what price was doing. You'd probably just call this a range and be like, okay, we're ranging, let me just buy the lows and sell the highs. Do you really want that, or do you want to have real clarity, right? And this is one of the things that really give you clarity in your trading, 100%. On the left, we have an actual iceberg. The core point of these orders, right, is that large traders want to build or exit positions discreetly without signaling to the market, right? Without showing their interest or their intent on the market. So How do they do that, right? You might be thinking, okay, yeah, that's true. If we could all see their orders and they're showing their cards, basically, we could capitalize on that. Well, no. The thing is, iceberg orders are orders that will get filled at one specific level. We have different type of iceberg orders. That's a long story, but let's just talk about iceberg orders in general, because you have iceberg orders, you have dynamic iceberg development, which is basically a advanced level of iceberg detection, which is basically spread out over a certain amount of time instead of on one spot. In this case, an iceberg order, as we can see on the left, this was executed in a way where price, or like the participants, wanted to get filled at that level. But they can't just put their orders out like this. They can't just say, and usually these orders are bigger. These orders could be 500 orders, 1,000 order iceberg order. It's just one participant in general. That's how you got to see it. Because he's interested to get filled at that specific price. But he can't show his intent like these do, right? Because everyone would just know exactly where they are. And people could, work against that. And that's not what they want. They want to fill their order discreetly. How does that work? Price moves to a certain point, right? Price moves to a level. They're interested to get filled there. They turn on their algo to get filled at that specific price at X amount of contracts. Usually it's a big contract order. Then what happens is they literally absorb every single buyer in that level. So, for example, they want to sell and they want price to go lower. They absorb every single buy order coming in, every single buy order, until they are filled completely to the position size that they want to be filled at. In this case, 332 contracts, right? So it's an algo that they turn on at that specific level, where they get filled at that specific price without them beforehand showing that they wanted to get filled at that specific price. Right? So it really shows in this case the real liquidity versus fake liquidity, right? Spoofing, basically. Why? It's simply because they're interested in a specific level. It's basically to confirm the trade idea. This is why we use it. This is exactly how you should use it. This is exactly order flow. This is exactly trading with the institutions instead of trading in the blind, getting raped by these institutions. Now, before you go and open up Bookmap and start trying to trade off of everything you just saw, I need to leave you with the most important thing in this entire video. Everything I just showed you, the liquidity walls, the stop orders, the depth of market, the iceberg orders, none of it means anything without context. Bookmap is not a strategy. It's not a signal. And it's not something you open up and immediately know what to do. It's a precision tool. Like any precision tool, it only works when you already know what you're looking for. If you open Bookmap without a narrative, without knowing the higher time frame context, without understanding where value is and where price is likely to go, you are just looking at noise. A liquidity wall means nothing if you don't know whether price is likely to respect it or rip straight through it. Absorption, for example, means nothing if you don't know the broader context of what the market is trying to do. Context first, always. And Bookmap is the last step of the execution, not the first step of the analysis. Build your narrative, identify your location, understand the structure, and then when you're ready to pull the trigger, that's when this tool becomes the difference between a good trade and a precise one. That's the whole game. And if you want to understand how I build my context before I ever open up a tool like this, check out the first video in the description. I go over the entire framework so you'll understand how to implement this for yourself and actually start making money with order flow.